Yo, what's up guys? My name is GLOCO and welcome back to the letter. We're now in part 15. Yeah! It's been such a long time since I uploaded another episode of this game. But hey, we're still on this. We're still continuing this. I want to finish this game and I am still curious as to what will happen in the next, in the next events and stuff like that. We're still in the chapter of Marianne and it's now October 24th Monday in the game, so that's around the time after what do you call this, after Rose died and after Isabella got attacked in the office. Okay, so here we go. So Monday couldn't come any faster. After taking the floor plans from Miss Santos the day before the last, I spent most of my Sunday drawing up plans and calling in my suppliers. Although no design choices have been made yet, I'm quite sure that they'd want high-end appliances, the most expensive materials, and the most pretentious everything. They usually did, these rich types, based from experience at least. Given how badly this whole thing started, it wouldn't hurt to be prepared. I have to check myself, make sure I'm not playing with my gloves as one of the other building tenants takes the elevator up with me. And it makes me self-conscious when the woman's eyes go over me, and I'm sure she was going to point out some perceived flaw in my physical appearance. But I'm saved from being paranoid when they went off a few floors later. Still, the ride up to my floor is nerve-wracking. The wrights lived at the very top. The penthouse, the creme de la creme when it comes to condominium and urban living. I think it's supposed to be the cream of the crop. I'm not. Just getting access to the place is an ordeal of its own. I had to jump so many hoops, so many security checks just to secure a key card. Not only because of building management, but because of the wright's personal security. It sometimes felt like I'm being interrogated for a crime and not visiting a client at their home. Even when their personal assistant called in to help out and verify my presence, the process is aggravated rather than hastened. Speaking of the devil. Oh, hello. The elevator door opens and I am greeted by none other than Whiskey's not so little lackey.
I do apologize if I kept Mr. and Mrs. Wright waiting. But I'm here now and I'm ready, so if I may, where are they?
They've just woken up, but they should be down soon. I'm surprised to see you made it through security. And only 5 minutes late.
You said I'd be through security soon, and it took half an hour. Define soon in this context.
Yeah, look at them. Spouting each other's sass.
I'd make myself comfortable if I were you. I'm going to go and put the kettle on.
About the tea, I don't want to intrude or anything.
The sir does not like being woken up by the whistling. But who am I to deny tea to a guest?
He shows me to the couch before drifting off towards the kitchen, quietly pulling out a teapot, cups, and all sorts of other things in preparation for tea. I ignore the animosity towards his employer that his words implied. I wouldn't be too surprised if Whiskey's own people don't like him. Accepting the quiet and isolation instead, I brace myself for what's to come. In this case, soon apparently means more than 5 minutes or even 10. I sit in their living room, just waiting. And when the kettle starts whistling and the tea has been served, I continue to wait. At least the silence is relaxing. But then there's a crash. I nearly spilled tea all over my lap in surprise, and I look up expecting security to come running. Even the man at the kitchen counter continues to fix breakfast like he heard nothing. I don't want to speak about it because he looks far too absorbed in his cooking, and I don't want to be the cause of burnt food or worse. However, there's something in me that just wants to figure out what that was, although I am normally not this nosy. Okay, what should I do then, huh? Should I check it out? Should I continue waiting? I don't know. I'm thinking it's some kind of freaking trap. If I check it out, it might be the ghost bitch in a way. Or maybe if I continue waiting, nothing will happen. I don't know. Because it's really... God. I'm curious. I'm really curious. But then, if Hans isn't phased by that sound, then he probably didn't even hear anything. So this definitely is the ghost bitch. Oh shit, what should I do? What? You know what? I don't really care that much about Marianne anymore. And, you know, she hasn't really experienced anything ghostly by, you know, for the past days. So, what? We might as well let her experience her first encounter. Let's go check it out. The crash came from the hallway, and I really shouldn't be snooping about. But it's just concern, yeah? Concern that urges me to check it out. Sneaking a glance at the butler, I consider sneaking off, but...
Excuse me, but where's the loo?
He barely looks my way before pointing a spatula towards the hallway. It's a good excuse as any. And if I'm caught lingering longer than I should, I could just excuse myself and say that I wasn't sure which door led to where. Oh shit! Look at this hallway! Alright, still, looking into the hallway reveals nothing. I don't see anything that might have caused the crash. The hallway, like the rest of the place, is in pristine condition. There are several doors for not only the toilet, but also presumably rooms for their butler and for other members of the staff. As I stand there, however, something feels definitely out of place. One of the doors, the nearest within my reach, stands ajar, and from inside a light flickers incessantly. It could simply be a light bulb that needs replacing, but the thought of it in a place so well taken care of seems odd. Off, even. I think that maybe this is where the crash came from. Inside, I can spy a radio lying on the floor. That's probably it, right? Maybe one of the help, in a hurry to get out of the room, knocked over it in the process. If that's all it is, I should really leave it alone. As I turn to leave, the sound of a static fills the air, and a man's tiny voice interrupts the silence.
At 7 in the morning, students found a 5th year dead.
Wow. Okay, why am I still standing here?
Assumed to have fallen from her dormitory window.
Ew. This seems familiar, doesn't it?
Authorities are investigating the possibility of foul play.
Oh! Remember that girl she keeps mentioning? Remember the girl that Marianne keeps mentioning during the past episodes? Her precious friend and stuff like that? Oh. She did say her friend suicided, right? Am I right? Like I've heard it before.
Reporting from St. Samthins, Shane McLaughlin of Galway Bay, AM.
What the?
Oh shit! Fucking hell, I recoiled backing away from whatever that was. In the process, I trip backwards on my feet and I wait for the pain of falling flat on my back. But instead I feel a hand on my back and see the smug smile of, well, guess who?
Oh, don't tell me you're reporting to work drunk, Mint.
Mint? Of course I know exactly who that voice belongs to. It just have to be him.
Marianne McCullough, hammered on the job? That would be something.
But
Wouldn't dream of it, whiskey. You're allowed to be if you want it, though it's a bit early for it. So thanks for the save.
really, it is much appreciated. Even though the circumstances during our first meeting were not savory or wholesome, I can't bring myself to completely look at Mr. Wright in a bad light. Well, that's thanks to me, because I didn't go through, through that other route, if you know what I mean. And nothing came out of it after all, see?
It's no trouble at all. I've been told I have a gift for catching pretty ladies, being a great catch myself.
Shut the fuck up.
Is that so? Would you say you'll be able to catch if another man were to pitch?
Hey!
Perhaps, but I wouldn't know. I don't play baseball, Mint.
Right. Of course you don't.
I can't help but chuckle at my little joke, but it looks like it completely went over his head. If he had understood it, I guess it would have been inappropriate. He is my client, after all. Speaking of which, where's Mrs. Wright? Or I have work to do, sir. Yeah, where's Mrs. Wright? Whatever little camaraderie I had with Misky is forgotten, however. I straighten up and glance behind him, only to find that he's on his own. Mrs. Wright is still absent. I still remember my place and why I'm here. To continue in such a manner with her husband would feel like a breach of trust between my client and I. Oh. Ooh.
Since you are here, I don't suppose Mrs. Wright is on her way down? It is 10:30 after all.
She'll be down here in a moment. For now, you have me. Can't I just chat with a good friend?
Oh, please.
I don't think a night where we talk like two drunk Egypts makes us good friends. And if you have any bit of sense, it's better to forget that night ever happened.
What? Why not? It was a good night, if a bit boring.
You know exactly why. We both know what your intentions were that night. And to find out that you're married?
Aha!
If there's even an ounce of decency in you, if you'd like the world to be a little less messed up, you'll remember your wife and what you almost did to your Mrs. Wright.
It's better to get that out of the way once and for all.
Well, no need to be such a killjoy about it.
The dead air between us, because it can't be anything else but that. It's broken, as a lively voice calls out from the loft.
Marianne! I hope I haven't kept you waiting too long.
You know, there's something about Hannah's voice. It's so calming and just edges me up in a way. I don't know.
I know we agreed we'd start at 10 o'clock, but mornings just simply do not agree with me. Not one bit. It's been like this since I've been in university.
She's like a nanny or something. I don't know. It's 5 minutes to 11 o'clock. These high-end clients sure like to be fashionably late. I'm used to it though, much like how I'm used to so many years of hearing people mispronounce my name. Besides, berating or correcting my client will be extremely impolite, and Marianne doesn't sound too bad when she says it. To be fair, it doesn't seem like she's late on purpose.
I see you're up, darling. You know, you could have woken me up as well.
Aha!
Were you showing Marianne around? Not that there's much to see. This place is so tiny compared to the mansion.
I'm more worried about the way she stares at me, judging. Such a look. It doesn't suit her pretty face at all. Just seeing Mrs. Wright remind me too much of her. And maybe I'm starting to hear her again. See her again when I shouldn't. I shouldn't have left it all behind, forgotten it. To think she would be looking at me that way, I can just feel my hands tremble. Ah, Marianne's friend was blonde like Mrs. Wright.
Oh yes, just showing her around and getting to know each other. Isn't that right, Marianne?
Shut the fuck up.
Yes, of course. And your butler was making breakfast a while ago. So if you want to get right to that...
Breakfast would be lovely.
There is no denying the clients when they invite me over to the table. Though it is too personal to share a meal in their home, it will be terribly rude to deny their invitation. Besides, the pancakes did look and smell heavenly. Oh, look at that. It's like a gourmet pancake dinner. Breakfast. There you go. A bowl of clotted cream, fruits, syrups, jams, and other spreads are laid out next to them, making for a colorful arrangement. If this was a brunch with friends, I would have gladly helped myself to the whole lot. But as it is, I accepted just a few pieces of pancakes and topped it off with lemon and sugar.
You know, I was a tiny bit serious when I said I wanted a helipad.
And you're not serious about the greenhouse, the vineyard, and the stables.
Well, I do want those too, but I know you'll agree to those.
We're talking about interiors here, honey. You don't handle exterior designs and whatever handles those sorts of projects do you, Marianne?
I'm able, actually, and willing to take a project of that nature. I was an architect in Ireland before. Of course, that's another contract entirely.
Oh yeah, I forgot to tell you guys. Here is the profile of Marianne. Let's check it out. Alright, there you go. So her birthday is July 14. She's Cancer, 30 years old. Height is 5. Wow, almost 6. She's taller than me. Occupation, interior designer, former architect. Nationality, Irish. Religion is Roman Catholic. Education is Bachelor of Arts in Architecture. And likes chocolate, cats, classical arts, country music, karaoke, bar games, and video games, anime, and other obscure pop culture items. Yeah! Okay, I like Marianne again. I totally forgot. She's also an otaku like us. Okay, so her backstory is she was left in a dumpster as a baby. She was found by a peddler and spent most of her childhood roaming the countryside in a beat-up van. Her father taught her how to read, write, and pray. Although an unconventional life, it was all she knew. So they were kind of like nomads in a way. Child welfare, and protection eventually caught on and required that she have a proper education. She was provided a scholarship at St. Samthan's School for young ladies and was bullied for being a charity kid. Marianne only had one friend and was mostly focused on her studies, intent on graduating and returning to her father. A shame that he was diagnosed with Alzheimer's soon after. So Alzheimer's is a condition when you usually for old people when they grow old, it's more of like they tend to forget a lot of things much more quickly and stuff like that. Mostly short-term memories and stuff like that. So her work as an architect in Ireland lasted until the Irish economic crisis. She moved to England and after some time, Luxembourg in search for better career opportunities. There you go. Interesting backstory. All right. Continuing on.
I also suggest we finish the house itself before working on any additions to the rest of the property. There won't be any problems about ownership this time, will there? Pardon if I'm crossing a line, but the acquisition was rather quick.
Oh, don't you worry. We've got everything sorted this time around. I've talked to Miss Cooper and Mr. John from BRC. Oh, as well as the old owners.
I really want to meet the old owners. I want to see what they have to say about the house.
Everything has been paid in full, and all we're waiting for is the paperwork from the land registry. They're letting us move in as soon as we please. It's not like they were living there in the first place.
That's good to hear. The problems that could arise from renovating another person's home would be, well, let's not dwell on it. First off, we'll want to know how you want the place to look. It's pretty furnished as is, but I understand if you want to modernize the whole thing.
Actually, I'd prefer to keep the place looking as it is, but at the same time, I want modern appliances. You worked on the Ludgate's Christchurch summer residence. I do remember there being an oven I thought was a simple drawer before.
What?
Make them look vintage, antique, blended with the rest of the decor.
Customize appliances then. I can't find someone for that, and if you can't tell me what you specifically want, it'll hasten up the process. We're talking about electronic appliance manufacturers. If you have a preferred brand to work with.
Splendid!
Wow, these are like really serious stuff that you usually hear in real life as well.
So, what is next on our agenda? All the other interior designers we've hired in the past did not have us this involved.
Stop. What sort of half-baked designer did that? If I knew who they were, I would have words. This isn't the time or place for it, however. Instead, I used this brief pause to pull out the floor plans I brought with me.
We'll have to figure out what you want to do with the rooms. Here, we can have a quick run through.
What is that little room next to the master's bedroom?
Which one? The quarters? Is that it?
Oh, as far as I could tell when I saw it, it's a second bedroom of sorts. Used, apparently, for the ladies in waiting who has served Lady Charlotte Ermengarde, which is strange, as that isn't the norm for these sorts of houses.
Ladies in waiting, what?
Well, we're not stuffing Johan's in there. He won't fit. You don't suppose we could turn it into a walk-in closet and a dressing room?
I love fashion, but do we really need to turn an entire room into a walk-in closet, dear? We'll have large closets and a wardrobe in the bedroom already.
Says the one who takes 3/5 of our closet. Well, what do you suggest we do with it?
I thought a utility room of some sort would be nice. A craft room where I can do fun things. Or maybe a children's room might be nice. You know, for when Kylie comes over. Or if Rochelle visits once she's had a baby.
Oh, Kylie. What? Kylie? They know Kylie? Their niece?
1, you are not inviting that witch. And 2, there's a whole mansion for Kylie to play in. We don't need a children's room, and you don't even do arts and crafts. I'd like to turn the guest's room and the study into my personal office, by the way, if you don't mind.
You can turn it into a personal office if I can have my utility room. It's just the one room of the many.
Alright.
I'm taking that room for myself, no matter what you say, dearie. So you might as well take this deal. You're always out doing business anyway. The real problem is the theater. Whatever are we going to do with all that space?
Well, movie house? Movie room?
Fine, we could turn it into our own personal
go.
cinema, I suppose. Might as well have it, if you plan on not having a telly in the parlor.
Yes, well, I don't want guests to be glued to the telly when they come over for a meal and some tea. By the looks of things, we can keep the rooms as what they are on the ground floor, though. The ballroom would be perfect for parties.
Do we really need a dining hall, though? I don't suppose we can't convert it into a garage.
What for? You can park your cars outside.
What about that room? Right there, in the northeast corner.
Northeast corner. The study room?
That's sleeping quarters for the household help.
This one? Oh, this one? I don't know. I am so confused.
Oh, that is perfect. Johans will be glad if we have other staff
this
members
one.
who stayed in. It'd be convenient so they don't have to make the trip from Luxbourne to the mansion when they're needed.
You'll definitely need a lot more people to maintain a property of this size.
The mansion is really a lot bigger than I thought. Look at all these rooms. I didn't even know there was a music room next to the parlor because of what happened.
There was a grand piano in there too, when we checked during the tour.
Did you hear that, Luke? Maybe you can take up playing the piano again. Oh, you should have seen him when we were younger, Marianne.
It's not like I was very good with the thing.
That's
Oh, hush you. You were no Mozart, but I loved hearing you play nonetheless. He'd come over to my home and he'd play such fun tunes. He'd sing too and I'd dance and it was just...
Mr. Wright playing the piano? I can't imagine it. But anyway, guys, holy shiz. You know, the way they just planned everything and stuff like that? It's like, wow, I always wanted to do that. You know, maybe in the near future when I buy my own house and stuff like that, I could, you know, just go through it with my interior designer or architect and stuff like that, and just discuss rooms and plans and stuff like that. It's just so interesting. I don't know. But the earnest way in which Mrs. Wright said so told otherwise.
Anyway, what do you think of these plans, Marianne?
Are we not even going to consider one of my requests? Not even just a closet or just a garage? Now, that isn't fair, is it? You're not the only one who's going to be living here.
I hardly see how that's unfair. I told you you're getting your office and your theater, the greenhouse, the vineyard, and the stables. That sounds fair, does it not, Marianne?
Yes, it sounds fair. Screw you, Luke. Mrs. Wright has her points, though. I really didn't want to butt into the spat of a husband and wife. But with the way the two were looking at me to settle this, I might as well just keep to the facts instead of giving opinions.
Mr. Wright, your plan isn't quite feasible from an architectural perspective. I'm not even sure how much we can do without closer inspection. Well, the one about the garage, at least. A walk-in closet is easy enough, but the garage?
Why do they call it garage? Isn't it garage? I don't know. Potato,
See,
potato.
a garage isn't architecturally feasible, and it isn't going to be financially sound as well.
Wow. Talking about financially sound while they're actually worrying about money and cost, eh?
We're already going to spend a lot on your other requests. You have several acres of land to park on already.
What? Did you calculate that on the fly? Financially sound my foot. You're probably just thinking up of imaginary numbers.
Might I remind you that I was a financial manager? I also looked over and approved the expenses of our other houses. I know the rough costs of these things by now, love. Masters in Business Administration, major in accounting. Sometimes I think you forget that I'm not as dumb as I act.
Oh, that catches my attention more than anything. It sounds more unbelievable than Whiskey playing the piano. She really didn't seem like the type.
Business administration and accounting? What university?
Luxbourne U, of course. Go Lux Dragons, red and gold.
Excuse me, how about we move on this chit-chat ahead and do whatever else needs to be done sometime today? I had to cancel my appointments for this, you know. We might as well do a proper inspection with the designer this time, just to get it out of the way.
Yes, no time like the present. You want a thorough inspection? Might as well do it now. We actually took another look at the property yesterday, though it was brief. But I'm sure you would want to see it yourself, to spot anything we might have missed.
It's not like I have much of a choice, do I? Yay! Riding to the Ermogan mansion in their rice is an awkward affair. Not only am I worried about scuffing the expensive leather seats, but I'm also worried about getting in the middle of another couple's spat. With that tension thick in the air, I can feel them staring at each other anytime. Nobody's saying anything, up until Mr. Wright tells his valet to turn the damn radio off. And for a moment, I think that he might start. But instead, he just stays quiet, and so do the rest of us. And then, the sufferable silence stays. I have never been so glad to see a house. Stepping out of the car and up to the mansion meant the end of an uncomfortable ride, and I can finally take a deep breath of fresh air. The beauty of the place never fails to make me gaze in wonder every time I see it as well. Mrs. Wright moves towards the front door, keys in hand, and I can already hear Mr. Wright plotting.
Alright, Hans, we're going to go in, but I want you to look around the place. Familiarize yourself with it. Know every nook and cranny, every inch of the lot. Go and see where we can put that vineyard and the other things we talked about. We'll want to know where to station security as well, so go around the perimeter and figure it out.
Scout the property and circle the perimeter on foot. You do know this is 46 acres of land, sir.
Well, you are not driving a car over the grass. Put those long, spidery legs of yours to good use. I didn't hire you to stand around and look intimidating. Go, mush.
Someday I'd like to ask how Johans can even stand and tolerate the man. Why doesn't he just quit? Certainly the pay can't be that good. Even I'm a bit put off by our mutual employer, and the only thing that keeps me from bailing is the fact that we've already signed a contract. At least I'll only be working with them during the duration of the project. He works with them every day.
Sometimes I think you hired me to make me suffer for your amusement.
Haha! Someday I'd ask. I feel bad a bit. I feel a bit bad for him. If it's any consolation, he'll be away from Mr. Wright, if only for a little while. We're able to enter the mansion after a bit of standing out there in the sun. This wretched, strange sunlight that is far too alien and rare. There had been a bit of a problem with the missus not knowing which key was which. The first item on the agenda will be the grand staircase. It seems sturdy during the open house, but a closer inspection might say otherwise. There are no obvious marks of damage nor wear and tear, probably rethreaded during renovations. Peeking under the granite carpet, the wood is properly installed with the bark placed down to prevent cupping. The carpet itself could use a vacuum though. Structural conditions from what I can see without actually dismantling the thing, look to be in good shape, and the handrails and support posts are firm. The work on it should be commended. I can't look more into the rest of the foyer, however, because Mr. Wright starts to hurry us into checking the dining hall.
So, what do you think? Certainly we can't turn this area into a garage.
It will be a waste.
It's Jacobean architecture. I'd say these would be pilasters and not buttresses, but you never really know. They really liked mixing up these elements. You could say it was pretty avant-garde at the time. We might hit a support beam if we're not careful.
And in layman's terms?
From what I see here, we could risk great damage to the house if we try to turn the dining hall into a garage.
There you go. The man didn't look too pleased at this. There's a look of disappointment before he sighs and looks around the place with an air of defeat. When he moves to speak, I dread another unreasonable demand again.
This will stay a dining hall then. But if I may have another request instead, at least spruce the place up with some flowers, some plants or something. It feels so old and dead in here.
That's hardly unreasonable. Daffodils are a must, I presume.
The look that passes between the two of them, there is a genuine look of fondness there. This is the first time I've seen such an exchange between the two of them. If anyone are to see them like this, there is little doubt that they loved each other.
Of course, and I want a garden full of them. Now, if you excuse me, I'd like to look at the rest of the house. I'll just be around here downstairs, if anybody needs me.
That leaves Mrs. Wright and I.
He's quite fond of them, you know.
I can imagine. He looked terribly upset when we told him he can't have his garage.
I meant the daffodils. We always have a vase full of them in every house we own. Somewhere, I'd like to think. They may be about his mother. He never talks about her.
Oh.
I don't even know her name.
Oh, backstory of Luke that we haven't heard about. Maybe that's why he's such a suck-up bitch. Okay.
He likes to flatter, claim that they remind him of me, but he's always loved the flowers, even before we married.
Oh, nice. Much like the piano. Didn't take him for a person who liked flowers. Daffodils, at least of all. What's next? Am I going to find out that Mr. Wright saves kittens from burning buildings?
I'll go and snoop about upstairs.
That will be funny, though.
You go and do whatever it is that you have to do.
When she goes without even asking if I need her here, I'm left standing to stare at the walls. Really, I don't need to go through inspection of the building itself. It isn't really part of an interior designer's job. But the architect in me is committed to doing the task with every project. If I'm going to make a living space that have both form and function, I might as well make sure that the entirety of it is safe for my clients. Since I'm already here, I roam around the dining hall to check things off my punch list, if you will. But when it's time to move on, I hesitate. Mr. Wright said he will be somewhere around here on the ground floor, and I really didn't want to be alone with whiskey. I have to look through the place eventually, sure, but on the other hand, I can do it later when he's gone. I can go upstairs first if I want to. So, which floor should I go first? Okay, ground floor is Mr. Wright, so I'll check the first floor first. Okay, let's go. I've already seen through of this floor during the open house. Of course, I know that I know that it's just a convenient excuse. I just don't want to be in the same room as Whiskey anytime soon. So I might as well just go upstairs first. The banisters on the grand staircase landing are solid and at the proper height. Any lower and they will be trouble. There's a small catch in the carpet though, but as long as nobody tries to run down the stairs until it gets fixed, things should be alright, sorry. And the stained glass? Art. Restored, no doubt, in the image of the last lady and the Lord of Ermengarde. Or it was supposed to be, until Lady Charlotte's fiancé was brutally murdered. Oh. By a witch. A witch, of all things, from what I've heard. You'd think the historians of this place will be a lot more scrutinizing, filtering out stuff like that. I'm amazed they bothered with it, instead of replacing it with some generic cookie-cutter design. Instead of calling the ghost bits, just ghost witch should be appropriate, huh? Alright, this entire piece alone would have cost roughly 500, even £1 million. Lady Charlotte Ermengarde and her beloved. Looking at the mosaic, it's not too far a stretch of the imagination to believe that the depicted images could be Mr. and Mrs. Wright. See, I told you, they look the same. In a way, they actually kinda remind me of them. Oh, and the ghost witch kinda reminds me of Marianne. Don't you think, guys? I think I mentioned that in an earlier episode. It can be easily assumed as such if one doesn't know the history of the mansion. Really, a place like this should be protected by the government and as a landmark. You know what? I actually saw I don't know. I saw some kind of art, an official art of the game where this guy, the Lord of Ermengarde, was having an affair with the witch. So if we went through with Luke sleeping with Marianne, we're pretty much deja vuing everything that the Ermengarde history thing did. Oh, alright. But what can I do about it? Walking into the east wing, I try to get into the theater, but is met with an obstacle. The obstacle that is locked doors. 2 doors, and both of them are locked. I'd be frustrated would be if I already hadn't snuck off while the Wrights were having their little business meeting with Miss Cooper before to take a peek. With that, with what Mr. Wright wanted, we'd have to install a powerful projector, the type they use in cinemas, and a projection screen. The seats will have to be reupholstered if they're to be any comfortable, and the walls will have to be covered in dark material. Paint, wallpaper, or install wall-to-wall carpeting. Really, of all the rooms I could be jealous of, it's this one. I could just picture myself in there watching old kung fu flicks on a weekend-long marathon. Makes me wonder what kind of movies Mrs. Wright would like. Rom-com, perhaps? Her husband, on the other hand, I'd rather not think about it. In the middle of my notation and planning, I don't even realize that I'm not alone until I'm caught standing in front of a locked door like a fool.
Were you meaning to go in there?
Holy shit.
I'm afraid we won't be able to open it up today.
Holy crap, Mrs. Wright just pop out of nowhere.
Oh well, I wanted to, but it's fine. I can still survey the rest of the place.
Apologies, but the key was missing when they were handed over. They told us that they'd get right back to us with it.
What? But aren't they supposed to hand over all the keys once property changes hands? That can be grounds to file a complaint.
They were already kind enough to let us move in so early. There's no need to raise a fuss about it. Worst comes to worst, we can call for a locksmith.
The air is heavy and somber when she grows quiet and glances out the window, out towards the vast expanse that surrounded what will be their house. Their home. Then she looks back at me with a sigh and a bitter smile.
Flowers. Yellow flowers. Daffodils, dandelions, and sunflowers and the sort all up front. Just a whole garden of them. They'll make the house look lovely, won't they?
Of course. A garden is a wonderful addition to any home.
As I say this, her eyes roam over me, scrutinizing and thoughtful. I have to hold back the shiver and that threatens to run down my spine at being inspected so closely.
Yes, it must be nice.
We're still talking about the gardens, yes?
I mean, not having to worry about what another person thinks of you.
What do you mean by that?
She lifts her hand and points to her wedding ring before it falls listlessly to her side.
Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I didn't marry Luke. There'll be no fights about walk-in closets or silly helipads. I could do with this place as my heart desires until there's nothing but content. Then again, I wouldn't have bought this place if it wasn't a gift for him. I probably wouldn't even be in Luxbourne if it wasn't for him. Maybe I would have moved to London, Manchester, or Birmingham. I might have even left the country altogether. France, Germany, Spain, Canada, Sweden, even America. The possibilities would have been endless.
I don't know what to say to that. What is there to say?
I'm sorry, I must sound so petty and ungrateful. I do love him. So very much, even if he can be a bit difficult at times.
Oh no, not at all. I'm just confused why you're telling me this, of all people.
Just a whim, I think. Just flights of fancy, that's all. Don't you ever think about one decision you've made in your life and wonder how much would change if you chose to do things differently?
I try not to dwell on the past, ma'am.
The keyword is try, of course. Thinking of the past brings up too many ghosts. Memories of her. And I do wonder what will change if I just said yes when she asked for me. Oh. Maybe she'd still be with me. I return to the present, just like I said. I try not to dwell on the past. You know, why don't you decide on your own? Well, you must have been quite the pair. And, if I real talk her, why don't you decide on your own? I might be undermining their marriage. And it's not really my, you know... It's like I'm fucking attacking their privacy or something like that. I don't know. So, I'll just go for the safe answer. You must have been quite the pair, you know.
You must have been quite the pair, Mrs. Wright. Hannah Evans and Luke Wright taking Luxbourne by storm. At least, that's what I've heard.
That gets a giggle out of her. And can I be blamed if I like the way her eyes crinkled or how she sounded when she laughed?
Quite the celebrity couple, according to all the newspapers. But it wasn't always that way. Father certainly didn't approve of him at first. Why, he told me to stay away from him. Told me that I was too good for him. That's the usual overprotective dad speak, though. But of course, you know that.
I don't. I was too busy keeping my grades up at boarding school to maintain my scholarship. Never mind the fact that I went to an all-girls boarding school, so father never had any reason to fuss over boys trying to date his little girl.
And what did you tell him? Considering you are Mrs. Wright now, you or the mister must have convinced him otherwise.
Yes, well, I told him I was my own woman and I could decide who was deserving of me or not on my own. Thank you very much.
Haha.
That never stopped him from making sure Luke couldn't get anywhere near me without an escort and a guard anyway. Though he certainly wasn't that overprotective when I was dating Jack.
Who the hell is Jack?
Maybe your father considered this Jack a more capable man?
I doubt it. Jacqueline was nowhere close to being any sort of a role model when we were in college. She was rebellious, reckless, and immature. Everything I wasn't.
Because she was a girl, that's it.
But she was quite the charming, stunning woman, and I think that made her quite likable.
That takes me by surprise a lot more than by the fact that Mr. Wright's father-in-law didn't like him. That much was to be expected. But this? Oh, she's bisexual. Yes. I have nothing against them because that's their thing, though the nuns and the priests would say otherwise. Although, wasn't she worried about the implications, the rumors that would have arisen about her dating another of the same sex? Hey, look who's talking, Marianne, weren't you? Wait, why am I assuming that Marianne was dating that friend of hers that suicided? Maybe they were just good friends. Alright, especially with someone of her social status.
You look surprised, Marianne. The first thing anybody needs to know about me is that I go after what I want. And when it comes to who I love, it doesn't matter to me whether they're a man or a woman.
There you go. And it's nice. It's a nice enough sentiment. Still, the thought that this lovely lady before me had once been with another woman, I can feel my cheeks heat up, with a bit of panic, thinking they might be red enough for Mrs. Wright to notice. I can't tell, though. A coy smile graces her lips.
Legs, we called her, because of how often she was running about because of one thing or another. Climbing up walls and... what do they call it now?
Parkour! Yeah! Oh my god, they mentioned parkour pride, yo! Yeah! Actually, a lot of people from UK does parkour, so that's understandable. But hey, it's good. It gets mentioned.
And also because of her, well, legs.
And you went after her?
Not right away. When I first met her, I wanted nothing to do with her. She was so improper and uncouth. But I slowly realized that didn't mean she was a bad person. On the contrary, she did many a good thing and was always so nice to others. I found myself confused. I couldn't figure out if I wanted to be her or wanted to be with her. So I approached her, told her that I might have fancied her.
And your father didn't mind?
He must have thought it was my form of rebellion. But he never watched out for Jack as much as he watched out for Luke. If I didn't love my father so much, if he hadn't raised me right, I think I might have told him to bugger off. He's never been more attentive of me than when I started bringing home dates.
I'm sure he loved you very much.
She laughs once more, a glow about her. I know, she says with a small smile.
I suppose I've taken too much of your time with my silly stories. You still have much to inspect?
I still have most of this floor, and I'll want a quick run-through of the ground floor again later.
I shan't keep you from your work any longer then. Just call me if you need anything. I'd like to look around myself.
Alright. When she turns to leave, she glances back at me before disappearing into the foyer. I look out the window from where she was standing, and I move on, alone with nothing but my thoughts and her.
Finally, some peace and quiet. Thought the old biddy would never leave.
It's utter madness, this hearing things. I reckon it's the stress, though I don't know exactly what I'm stressed about. If meeting Mrs. Wright has really thrown me for a loop, I'd be worried. If I'm developing some sort of psychosis or disorder, well, I'd call a doctor. But hopefully it isn't that. Not right here, and not right now. I mean, it could just be that personal talking cricket, the conscience, so to speak, and I'm only noticing now. Though if it is, it isn't very helpful. Pushing the dilemma of voices in my head aside, I go back to work. But I can barely make it a few steps before everything tilts and shifts. I don't really stumble, but it feels like I'm being thrown off my feet, and the rest of the world just follows. Though my feet stay firmly on the ground, and even if I stay mostly upright, I feel like I've been heaved and put off balance. I have to close my eyes in the hopes of willing the sudden sense of vertigo away, but when I open them... Oh no. Oh shit! It's corpse party vibes, yo! Well, guys, that's it for all the character developments and, building relationships for this episode. Hopefully, in the next ones, we'll see more intensity. Alright! Thank you so much, guys, for watching this episode. Thanks for continuing the support of the series. I'll continue and upload many more as frequently as possible. Hopefully, I won't be busy in the next couple of days doing other things. But anyway, thank you so much, and I hope you guys enjoyed. I'll see you in the next episode. Bye!